The red dress hung in my closet like a dare. Bold, vibrant, and perhaps a little too hoped for a 62-year-old widow. I had bought it 2 weeks earlier, picturing how my son Nathan would smile when he saw me in it. "You look beautiful, Mom," I imagined him saying, the way he used to, when he was a boy and I dressed up for his school plays or award nights. Back when I still mattered. I slipped it on anyway. The silk felt cool against my skin, unfamiliar but comforting. In the mirror, I saw a woman who had grown practiced in hiding loneliness behind well-applied lipstick and polite smiles. Linda Barrett. Still my name even after the divorce from Nathan's father nearly 15 years ago. Some identities outlast marriages. The text had come that morning. "Looking forward to lunch, Mom." The usual spot, 1 p.m. Simple, warm enough to stir something inside me. At 35, Nathan had built a life far from mine, a sleek Chicago real estate career, a downtown penthouse, Instagram full of curated joy. But he was still my son, still the boy I raised alone when his father moved on. I arrived at Bravetti's Bistro 15 minutes early, holding my purse like a shield. The hostess, a young woman with soft curls and a sunny smile, led me to our regular table by the window. Around me, the restaurant hummed with the energy of Mother's Day, families laughing, children handing out handmade cards, bouquets gracing nearly every table. "Your son will be joining you?" the hostess asked, straightening the silverware. "Yes," I lied gently, "any minute now." 1 o'clock came and went. The waitress, older and kinder, brought water and bread I couldn't touch. "Would you like to order an appetizer?" she offered. "He's just running late," I replied, swallowing a knot that had nothing to do with hunger. "You know how traffic is." By 1:30, I could feel eyes on me, sympathy from nearby tables. I ordered the salmon Nathan's favorite, telling myself he'd walk in just as the food arrived. Instead, my phone buzzed with a notification, his Instagram story. He was across town, smiling beside Deborah, his stepmother, with the caption, "Mother's Day lunch with my real mother. Grateful beyond words." The screen blurred as tears welled up, but none fell. Not yet, not here. I sat frozen, phone still in hand, while the noise of the restaurant swirled around me like wind I couldn't feel. Real mother. The words rang louder than the chatter, louder than the clinking silverware. They echoed down 35 years of memories, the scraped knees I kissed, the late-night fevers I soothed, the sleepless nights I worked 3 jobs to pay his college tuition, and suddenly it was like none of it had happened, like I had been erased. "Ma'am, are you okay?" the waitress asked softly, a note of concern replacing her earlier patience. I looked up at her kind eyes and tried to smile. "I'm fine," I lied. Again. I forced myself to eat a few bites of the salmon. It tasted like paper. Around me, families clinked glasses and laughed with ease, passing gifts and taking photos that would one day remind them they'd been loved. I stared at my plate, at the empty chair across from me, at the illusion I'd been nursing for years. Nathan still needs me. Nathan still cares. I pulled out my phone again. No new texts. No calls. No apologies. Just the photo of him with Deborah, that perfect smile of his lighting up the frame. I'd known, somewhere deep down, that I wasn't first in his life anymore. But I never imagined he'd choose to forget me entirely. Not on today, not like this. I paid the check, tipping generously out of habit. Rosa, the waitress, gave me a look that said she understood more than I'd spoken aloud. "Some people," she murmured as she collected the dishes, "don't deserve the love they're given." I nodded. Not in agreement, not in defiance, just in acknowledgement. The walk to my car felt longer than usual. Every step was heavy with the weight of memory. I drove home in silence, not trusting the radio to hold me together. When I reached my house, I sat in the driveway for a long while, the red dress growing tight around my ribs. Inside, I found last year's Mother's Day card in the kitchen drawer. I had kept it, tucked away like a small proof that I mattered once. A store-bought card with a generic printed message, signed simply Nathan. No note. No memory, just obligation. My phone buzzed. A text. "Sorry, Mom. Got held up at work. Rain check." Rain check. I stared at the words, numb. He still thought I didn't know. Still thought I was the woman who would swallow it down, make excuses, smile and nod. I started to type a reply, deleted it, tried again, deleted again. And then I typed the only truth that mattered: "I saw your post." He read it within seconds. No reply came. And as the sun sank outside my kitchen window, a cold clarity settled inside me. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I was done. This wasn't heartbreak. This was release. That night I didn't sleep. Not from grief, not from rage. Those had come and gone in waves over the years. What kept me awake was the strange, startling lightness in my chest. A sense of space where something heavy had lived for far too long. The space where my devotion to Nathan used to reside. At 3 a.m., I opened my laptop. I typed into the search bar without even realizing my fingers had moved. Flights to Madrid. Spain had been a dream once. In college, before I met Nathan's father, before life rerouted everything, I had studied Spanish literature. I used to imagine sipping café con leche on a balcony, walking through art museums, writing poems no one would read. I never went. Marriage came, motherhood followed, and then divorce. Now, for the first time in decades, no one needed me, no one was waiting, no one was calling. And that emptiness. It didn't feel like failure. It felt like permission. I clicked book now on a one-way ticket departing in 48 hours. The next morning I made coffee and called my neighbor Donna. She was in her 70s, widowed, with more wisdom than anyone I knew. When my marriage fell apart, she'd sat with me on the porch and told me, "You've got more life left than you think." "Donna," I said, standing in her warm kitchen that smelled of cinnamon and lemon furniture polish, "I'm going away for a while." She looked at me, not startled, not confused. Just curious. "How long is a while?" "I don't know." She nodded. "Good. That boy of yours has taken too much from you already." I handed her the spare key, instructions to forward any important mail to my bank. I left the house exactly as it was, the wedding china still boxed in the basement, the baby clothes in a cedar chest upstairs, the framed photo of Nathan from his high school graduation on the mantel. All of it stayed, like relics of a woman I no longer was. 48 hours later, I stepped off the plane in Madrid, suitcase in hand, lungs full of air that tasted unfamiliar and free. My Spanish was rusty, but I managed enough to get to a small studio apartment in Lavapiés, a neighborhood full of color, sound, and second chances. The apartment was tiny, but it had a window that opened to a courtyard where an old woman hung laundry and sang opera every morning. There was a bed just big enough, a desk just wide enough, and silence just deep enough for rediscovery. The landlord, Federico, was a kind man in his 60s with wild eyebrows and a fondness for American jazz. "You are a writer?" he asked, eyeing my single suitcase and blank notebooks. "I'm figuring that out," I said. For the first week, I did nothing. I walked through the city until my feet ached. I sat in cafes, listening. I bought groceries from a tiny market run by a couple who argued lovingly over fruit prices. I practiced ordering coffee in Spanish. I turned off international data on my phone and let it rest untouched. The missed calls piled up. First Nathan, then Richard, his father, then Debra. Dozens of voicemails, none of them listened to. I imagined their conversations. "She's not answering. Where did she go? What is wrong with her?" Let them wonder. For the first time in my life, I wanted to be the mystery. And I was finally willing to be found by myself. The second week in Madrid passed like a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. I still hadn't touched my phone. It sat powered off on the bedside table, a silent witness to the life I'd left behind. Every time I glanced at it, I felt no urgency, no longing, only the faint hum of boundaries forming in the space where chaos used to live. One afternoon, I found a quiet cafe tucked between two narrow alleys near El Retiro Park. It smelled of espresso and old books, and the woman behind the counter had hair the color of storm clouds, and an accent that blended Ireland with Spain. Her name was Moira Sullivan, and she ran the place like she'd invented comfort. "You American?" she asked, setting down a perfect cup of café con leche. "Temporarily," I said, and she laughed, a warm, musical sound like wind chimes. "We're all temporary, love. Some of us just admit it sooner." Moira became my first real friend in Madrid. She was 68, twice divorced, and proud of it. Her children lived in different countries, but called every Sunday. She spoke with the confidence of someone who had been through hell and decided to decorate it. One day, I told her about Nathan, about the restaurant, about the post. Moira didn't interrupt. She just refilled my coffee and nodded in that way women do when they've seen it all and survived anyway. "My middle son did the same," she said softly. "Chose his father's second wife over me after the divorce. Didn't speak to me for 5 years. What did you do? I asked. I let him go, she said, simple as that. Hardest thing I ever did. But sometimes love is letting someone walk away so they can learn what they've lost. That night, I turned my phone back on. The voicemails came pouring in, 47 in total. Nathan, Richard, Deborah, unknown numbers. The messages varied concern, confusion, guilt, control. I didn't listen to a single one. Instead, I sat at my desk and opened a fresh page in my journal. I wrote about a woman who had spent decades defining herself by who needed her, and who had finally learned that being needed isn't the same as being loved. And I slept that night without nightmares for the first time in years. It was a Thursday when she called. I was sitting outside the cafe with Moira, a plate of churros between us, when my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize, Spanish country code. I was about to ignore it, the way I had every other time. But something in me paused. I answered. Linda? The voice was careful, brittle. It's Deborah Collins, Nathan's stepmother. I'm in Madrid. I need to see you. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. How did you get this number? We hired someone, a private investigator. Please don't hang up. I flew here because Nathan's not well. He needs you. The irony was almost laughable. After all the silence, all the erasure, now he needed me. I said nothing. I'm staying at the Westin Palace Hotel, she added. Just an hour, please. I should have refused. Every part of me that had grown strong in Spain told me to protect what I'd rebuilt, but some small flicker, whether curiosity or the final ghost of maternal instinct, made me agree. Moira walked with me to the hotel. You don't owe them a single inch of yourself, she reminded me. I know, I said, and I meant it. Deborah looked older than I remembered. Her blonde hair showed dark roots. Her makeup was uneven, her silk dress wrinkled. She stood when I entered, hands trembling around a half-empty coffee cup. Thank you for coming, she said. You look well. I am well, I said, taking a seat across from her. You have 55 minutes. She flinched but nodded. Nathan's struggling. He lost the Peterson deal, the big development in Chicago. He's not sleeping, drinking too much. He's falling apart. I said nothing. I watched her, this woman who had taken my place so effortlessly. He feels guilty, she continued. He knows what he did. I told him that post on Mother's Day was cruel. I begged him not to do it. But you didn't stop him, I said. Her eyes filled. No, I didn't. I wanted to matter to him. I didn't think. No, you didn't. She looked away. He says he's ruined everything. He keeps saying he killed the only person who ever loved him unconditionally. He's right. Her mouth opened, then closed. Deborah, do you know what I did for 35 years? I asked. I made excuses for Nathan's indifference. I turned myself inside out trying to earn love from someone who never had to earn mine. She swallowed hard. I know I have no right to ask this, but please just talk to him. He needs you. I leaned back in my chair. He needed me for years. He chose someone else. And now he needs me to make the guilt stop. But I'm done being his band-aid. I stood, calm and certain. Tell Nathan I love him enough to let him feel the weight of what he's done. And when he's ready to carry it with integrity, not shame, I might listen. Until then, I am no longer his safety net. And I left Deborah sitting in that hotel lobby with her cold coffee and her regrets. 3 days later he appeared. I was at Moira's cafe, grading vocabulary exercises from my advanced English students, when I saw him through the window. Nathan Barrett, thinner than I remembered, his once-tailored suit now rumpled and loose around the shoulders. He stood across the street like someone unsure of his own presence, staring at me through the glass. I didn't flinch. I didn't wave. I simply continued marking a paper about the future tense. Moira stepped up behind me, saw where I was looking, and raised an eyebrow. That him? I nodded. He looks awful, she said flatly. Good, I replied. Nathan finally crossed the street, each step like it carried 100 questions and no answers. When the cafe door opened, the small bell overhead rang louder than usual, or maybe I was just listening harder. The other customers glanced up briefly, then returned to their books and conversations. To them, he was just another American. He stood at the table for a moment, his eyes scanning my face like he didn't recognize me. My longer hair, my sun-warmed skin, the easy posture of a woman who didn't owe anyone an explanation. Mom, he said, unsure. Nathan. Can I sit? I gestured toward the empty chair without looking up from the next paper. He sat slowly, carefully, like someone easing onto uncertain ice. "I've been trying to reach you," he started. "I know. You haven't answered. Because I didn't want to talk to you." He blinked at the directness. That was new for him. "I deserve that," he said. "You deserve honesty." He looked down at his hands, rubbing them together the way he did when he was nervous as a boy. I felt nothing. "I messed up," he began. "That Mother's Day, I don't know what I was thinking. I was angry. Confused." "No," I cut in. "You were clear. You were cruel, but you weren't confused. You made a choice." "I didn't mean to hurt you." "You didn't hurt me that day, Nathan. You revealed yourself." The hurt came from the 35 years I spent believing that if I gave you enough love, you'd give it back. But what you wanted was access, not connection. He swallowed, visibly shaken. "I do love you." "No, you love knowing I'll always pick up the pieces. You love the convenience of my love, not the responsibility that comes with it." Outside, someone passed by with a guitar slung across their back. Inside, the silence between us felt heavier than anything that had been said so far. "My business is failing," Nathan admitted. "I lost the house deal. The contractors pulled out. Christine and Dad are fighting. Everything's unraveling." "And so, you came here?" He nodded. "Because I'm your emergency contact." He opened his mouth, then shut it. "I'm not angry, Nathan," I said finally. "I'm done. There's a difference." "So what happens now? You just stay here forever?" "I live my life. You live yours." He stared at me, stunned by the simplicity. "There are papers you need to sign," he said, after a moment, reaching into his coat pocket. "For the property in Vermont. Legal stuff." And there it was. The real reason. "Email them," I said. "I don't have your email." "Then figure it out." I stood, gathering my papers. "This isn't revenge. It's protection. You are welcome in my life only when you've done the work to be someone who deserves to be there. Not when you need a signature." I walked away. He didn't follow. 3 days after Nathan's visit, I woke to find 23 missed calls. I had slept soundly, deeply, even peacefully. The kind of sleep that comes only when you no longer feel obligated to hold someone else's world together. My phone had been charging on silent. When I checked it over my morning coffee, I found the record of desperation waiting: 6 calls from Nathan, 4 from Richard, 3 from Debra, and 8 from a contact, saved only as N. Attorney. I didn't listen to a single voicemail. That afternoon, Lucia came for her extra English lesson, carrying a small paper bag that smelled like cinnamon. "Magdalena," she explained. "My grandmother says sweets help with difficult conversations." She placed the bag on the table beside her grammar book. "What makes you think I had a difficult conversation?" "You've been different since Tuesday," she said, not unkindly. "Stronger. But also, how do you say, more solid?" "More solid. I like that." "Yes," I said. "Someone I used to know showed up." She tilted her head. "The one who hurt you." I nodded. "Did he apologize?" "He tried. But apologies without change are just noise." We practiced the subjunctive that day, the grammar of uncertainty. If I were younger. If I had known. If he had changed. All those fragile conditional possibilities. "If my son were to truly change," I said aloud, "then maybe I'd consider forgiveness." Lucia looked up. "But you don't think he will?" "No, I don't." She nodded like she understood far more than her years would suggest. "Then you are free." That evening, Moira insisted on taking me out. We sat at a rooftop tapas bar, looking out over the Plaza de Santa Ana, plates of patatas bravas and marinated olives between us. "You look different," she said, echoing Lucia. "Settled. Like a woman who stopped waiting." I smiled. I feel like I finally arrived in the one place I'd always avoided my own life. We clinked glasses of Rioja. Just then, my phone buzzed on the table. A new call from an attorney. I turned it face down. "They're persistent," Moira observed. "They're desperate. Nathan's business is failing. The house has become a problem. He wants me to solve it for him." "Will you?" "Eventually," I said, "but not because he demands it, because I choose to." The next morning, a knock came at my apartment door. A young man in a tailored suit stood there, holding a leather briefcase. "Senor Barrett? My name is David Glickman. I represent your son, Nathan Barrett." I didn't open the door all the way. "How did you get this address?" "We hired an investigator. I need to speak with you about urgent legal." "No," I said flatly, beginning to shut the door. "Ma'am, please, your son's company is in serious financial distress. There are tax issues involving your property in Vermont. If you don't sign..." I cut him off. "Mr. Glickman, my son made a public choice to exclude me from his life. He has made no effort to repair that. I am under no obligation to clean up the messes caused by his own decisions." He stammered. "But he's your son." "And I'm his mother. A real mother teaches her child that actions have consequences." I closed the door, locked it, and made myself coffee. Later that day I called Moira. They sent a lawyer to my apartment. She whistled. "Want me to call my cousin with the civil guard?" "Not yet," I laughed. "What will you do?" "I'm going to live my life," I said, "and if Nathan wants to be part of it, he knows what he needs to do." And that was the end of it. Or maybe, finally, the beginning.